June is officially Caribbean Heritage Month and Read Caribbean Month, which is why we decided to gather together and talk about this. My guests are from the Caribbean diaspora. Would you please introduce yourselves briefly? We are going to start with Tanya.
Okay, well, thank you, Monica, for having me on your Caribbean program. It's a pleasure being here with our wonderful audience. Nice to meet you, Ward. I know you, Delvin and Marcia. I am Tanya Hernandez, known internationally as Miss Tanya Lou. I'm an award-winning entertainer, folklorist, and author. I teach, and I'm also a mentor. I just love everything cultural, and so you will find me everywhere internationally, spreading the joy and love of our West Indian Caribbean culture. Yes, and I have an awesome family, my wonderful husband, 4 kids, and a grandchild, of course. I just love to immerse them in a lot of the culture. Yes.
Beautiful. I love the introduction. So let's go to Ward, please.
Okay, I'm Ward Scott. I'm originally from Barbados. I currently live in Arizona. I co-authored a book with Winston Beard. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here, but I'll be speaking on both our behalves. The name of the book is The Fitzvillage Story, From Sugar to Salt. Fitzvillage is actually where both Winston and I grew up. So obviously, Barbados will always be home. Caribbean is definitely first and foremost in my thoughts. Anyone in the diaspora will always know that you leave the Caribbean, but you can't leave the Caribbean behind.
That's right.
That's right.
I ended up in Arizona working for Intel Corporation, but I retired back in 2008. Then I actually did some teaching, taught math for about 15 years. I'm currently retired, and I'm married, 3 daughters, 2 grandsons, and 1 great-grandson.
Lovely.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Delvin?
Hi, my name is Delvin Campbell, and I am from Jamaica, born and given away at birth. And 53 years later, I found all my family members.
Your story is beautiful. We should also say that you now live in America. You are right now with your wife, your lovely wife, Marcia. Does she want to show her
Yes.
face and say hello?
Oh, she had to go inside.
It's okay. So do you want to tell us just a little bit about what you did in America before you wrote the book, or anything about your background?
Yeah. Okay, so when I came to the US, I lived with a bunch of different people that I knew from Jamaica, and I kept bouncing around, and I bounced right into Marcia years later. And today we're married for 32 years. It was a rough road. I had to hustle, but people did help me. You know,
You're also a musician. You are also a musician and an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I did many things. Worked on cruise ships for years. I did everything necessary to survive.
I like that. We can conclude with that for now. I did everything necessary to survive. That's a very interesting phrase, key phrase, really.
So I just want to thank both of you, and I want to thank you, and I want to thank Ward. As Caribbean authors, we're all coming together like this to celebrate. I'm excited.
I'm excited for you and for myself. I have learned so much from all of your books while working on them and reading them over and over again. That takes me to who I am. You already know if you watch this channel, but my name is Monica. I am a writer and a book publisher. I help people publish their books. I love talking about culture. I love celebrating culture, not just my own. I am not Caribbean, and not just my own, but also other people's stories. That's what we really need to be able to unite. Understanding where people come from, understanding how similar they are to us, while also different. Talking about culture, not just our own, but also celebrating other people's culture. Like during this time, for instance, Read Caribbean or Caribbean Heritage Month. It's a wonderful opportunity to learn about the Caribbean people. You don't have to be Caribbean to enjoy this meeting. If you are, I'm sure you will by default. But if you are not, I assure you, these people are beautiful and their stories are just amazing. You will be inspired. For this reason, I am so, so happy to have you here. What I would like to do to set the tone for this conversation is I would love to invite you, Tanya, to recite Colonization in Reverse by Miss Lu.
Yes. So can I just first give context to colonization in reverse?
I would love
Back
that.
in the late 1940s, 50s, there were a lot of Jamaicans and Caribbeans immigrating to Britain. They were called the Windrush generation. And this is why this poetry was written. It's actually dialect Patois poetry written by the Honorable Dr. Louise Bennett Coverley. I'm a Miss Lou tribute performer. Her poem is one of the most epic poems because it tells us about a very special time in history. And actually, it's a paradox of colonial history, and you'll see why. I'll try and not only just read it, but recite it the way Jamaicans would normally do it. Colonization in Reverse by Louise Bennett Coverley. What a joyful news, Miss Matty. I feel like my heart going burst. Jamaica people colonizing England in reverse. By the hundreds, by the thousands, from country and from town, by the shiploads, by the plane loads. Jamaica people, England bound. Them a pour out to Jamaica. Everybody have a future plan to get a big time job and settle in the motherland. What a island, what a people, man and woman, old and young, just a pack them bag and baggage and turn history upside down. Some people don't like to travel, but to show them loyalty, them all opening up cheap fare to England agency. And week by week, them shipping off them countrymen like fire to immigrate and populate the seat of the empire. Hey! Oh no, see how life is funny? Oh no, see the turnabout? Jamaica lifted box bread out of English people mouth. Yes, and so when them catch England and start to play them different role, some people start to work and some people collect the dole. Jane said the dole not too bad because they're paying she £2 a week to seek a job that suit her dignity. Me say Jane will never ever get a job at the rate how she da look, cause all day long she sit down pan and fan couch and read love story book. What the devil meant to England? Them fierce war and brave the worst. But I am wondering how them going stand colonizing in reverse. Ay, ay, ay.
Oh,
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Yes, excellent.
That is excellent. Just a quick question. Ward, did you understand everything or not?
Perfectly.
You did.
I
Wow.
have a Jamaican friend. We talk every night. He lives in Barbados for a long time, but
Wow.
I have been fully engorged in the Jamaican culture. So
That is
Very nice.
fascinating.
no word is unknown to me.
And I toned it down because if I didn't level it up, mercy. Only Mulby would be able to understand.
I
That's
love
right.
it. I love it. Did you know that Patois is the third favorite language amongst English speakers? So we have English, of course, because it's familiar. Then we have Italian, according to, I think I'm going to insert the clip that says that. Apparently, Patois is the third favorite language amongst English speakers.
The English speakers, guess what came top? Why, English, of course. Second was our friend Italian, and third was Jamaican Patois, also known as Jamaican Creole English.
It's wondering why. Is it because we came to Britain at the time?
For me, I love how expressive you become when you speak the language, because I've already noticed there is a shift. There are two Tanyans I've noticed. When you joined us, you were a lot more reserved. But the moment you start speaking Patois, it's another person, different person. Someone once said that when you have more than one language, you have more than one soul. And
I love it.
and that's what I observe with you. And that's what I know for myself as well. I'm also bilingual. You live in Canada, isn't it? And then
Yes.
you come from Jamaica. So we've got the Canadian Tanya and the Jamaican Tanya, the two make one. I wanted to ask you, since we are talking about Patois right now, what is Patois? What languages is it made of? What I really want to know is, can it be considered an Afropean language? From what I understand, it's a mixture of African and European languages. Can it be considered an Afropean language?
So let me answer this with just a little excerpt from Miss Lou's. It's a monologue, and I'm just going to do a little part to preface before I say what I want to say. We have a wonderful heritage. Songs, riddles, proverbs, stories, and poems, and our amazing language, Patois, which stores our people's character. We have been speaking it for over 400 years. Patois, the rhythm of our language, inspired by our African ancestors through blood, sweat, and tears. When the Asian culture and the European culture buck upon the African culture of our Caribbean people, we stir it and we blend it to with flavor. We shake it and we move it to we beat. We wheel it and we turn it and we rock it and we tempo it and we sound it. And Lord, the rhythm sweet. Miss Lou Auntie Roche says she don't understand how the English people then say Patois corrupt, but for them language derive. What make our language don't derive to? Because if English come from the Norman, French, Greek, and Latin, them derive just like how we derive from the African, which is the basic language, and also the French and the Portuguese and the Spanish and whatnot. So we derive. So I would say from that and from what I have been living and learning all my life is that, yes, it's an Afropean language or Afropean, however we want to say that, but the basic language is Africa, because those our forefathers, our ancestors came from Africa, immigrated, of course, as you know, for 400 years living in the Caribbean and the Americas. And so we have a hybrid now of a new culture, all blend together, and we come now as one. So we're inextricably linked, but we are a unique nation and a unique language, which Miss Lou, our mother of Jamaican culture, who redefined our identity, our language and culture, she wanted the world to know that our language is not corrupt and it's not for poor, uneducated people. This is the language of our ancestors. It is through that language where we got our freedom, because our colonialists did not want us to speak our language. They took our voice away, and we come back again. And we revolutionized just the way how things were, and we turn it upside down through Patois, the revolutionary tool. And that language, they could not understand it. And that's how we were able to fight. And that's how we were able to get our independence, the abolishment of slavery and independence. Jamaica celebrates 63 years of independence this year from colonial rule. So thanks to Patois, the communication tool of our ancestors, it helped us to be free, to be a resilient people. Without it, without our African ancestors bringing that language to us, we probably would not be celebrating independence right now.
But African, do we mean Ghana specifically?
Nigerian and Ghanaian, those were the major ones. But even though I'm Jamaican, when I did my ancestry, I have like 17 ancestral heritage in me. Benin, Togo, but Nigerian is mostly the first one for me is Nigerian, then Scottish and Indian, and then I have the Ghanaian and the Benin, Togo, Ashkenazi Jew. Out of many, our motto says, "Out of many, one people."
Anyone
Tanya,
people. Wow.
the African thing, we came from two tribes, two specific tribes. There are the Igbo and the
Yeah.
Bantu tribes. We're all connected with those also.
Yeah, we have Igbo and Yoruba. I'm
I
from
did-
Yoruba. No wonder the way I am.
And
Because
Yoruba,
Yorubans
yeah.
behave
Yoruba.
differently. So yeah, those
I'm
are
Yoruba.
from all those African nations I spoke about. So you are quite right. And I wonder, Ward, what about you? What have you found out about your ancestors?
Okay, you just called quite a few that I also have, obviously Ghana, Nigeria, and right in between those,
Right.
that's actually my largest percentage just between there, but they're based on my West African heritage. There are about 21 different groups. You mentioned Yoruba, that I have kind of researched as a result of having done my DNA. So,
Nice.
but
See-
then obviously I also have a lot of European, Scottish, English, but even those countries actually were visited by the Vikings. So I
Yes.
actually show that I also have some Scandinavian roots. But one that I'm particularly very, very fond of, although it's very small, is my Kalinago roots, or some people call it Carib roots.
Okay. Wow.
That obviously they came out of South America, but my particular roots came back to Barbados from Saba, a little further north in the Caribbean. Yeah.
Wow, that indigenous culture, like the Arawaks and the Caribs, because those were the first people of the Caribbean countries before the colonialization came about. That's right.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That's right.
Wow. Do you see? I have the same thing like you, and so Bulbit too, as well, Scottish and Irish. I even found
Irish.
out I have
Yeah.
Spanish and 1% Italian.
That's what really interests
that's
me.
right.
That's what really interests me. But before we continue, I just want to say, since we are all Yoruba, I'm Yoruba.
Wow.
Let me just welcome you in Yoruba. Ekabo. My Nigerian people will laugh at me because I don't speak Yoruba. We all know this, but Ekabo.
Ekabo.
Okay. Now that I've got that out of my system, let me just say this. The reason why I'm asking this question specifically is because I'm participating in this exhibition in France. Last year, the curator was wondering if she should include Caribbean artists in the exhibition, since it was about the Afropean experience, meaning traveling between Africa and Europe and living between Africa and Europe, or just being both African and European, hence Afropean. And she asked me what I thought about it, and I just didn't know. That was before I started working with you, Tanya, and with you, Ward. You know, I started wondering about these things after we've had all these conversations, and I've read your books, and I was just amazed because as much as it is a separate culture, separate language, separate people, I don't want to take away from that at all. I celebrate the Caribbean heritage for what it is, the Caribbean heritage and nothing, less. At the same time, it appears to me that it's also an Afropean heritage in some way. Can you say that?
Yes, without the roots, we couldn't have all the branches and all the blossoming that we're having now. That's where foundation comes from. So that's why I said at the beginning, we are inextricably linked. So even though we have our own identity, you are Monica, but you are mixed with all these lovely nationalities, right? It's the same for all of us. People know us as Jamaicans or Barbadians, but they always want to know the history. If you don't know your roots, if you don't know where you come from, then how
Don't know where
can
you're going.
fully know who you are? Marcus Garvey, one of our national heroes, said that people without knowledge of their past history and culture is like a tree without roots. And so you doing this segment here with us and for your lovely viewers watching, I hope it inspires them to find out more about where they came from, who they really are. What it does is to inspire and foster cross-cultural understanding. It
Absolutely.
fosters unity. And that's what I love about this. So we can come to an understanding of who we are as a people, and we gain perspective of things, right? I've heard this saying recently and it hit me. If all you ever had was a hammer, you will see everything else as a nail and you will pound it. The more tools you have, you will have a better perspective and you would not be so narrow-minded or ignorant about things, you know? So
Absolutely.
Well said. The way I've always looked at it, because in addition to history and culture, I am also highly interested in migration. And so when I look at the Caribbean, we are basically the product of three migrations. The first one being the Amerindians out of South America. Then the Europeans came, and then obviously our African migration, that one being forced. But we are all made up of those three things. So we have, you can say, Afropean, but you know, we can also include that South American aspect as well.
So if we look at the majority of what you are, would you say Afropean mostly, or more African than European? How does that work?
Yeah.
I don't want to go too deep into percentages, but can we say that, because when I look at you, Tanya, and you, Ward, you very much look to me like you are mixed, or with you, Ward, more on the European side than African.
Yeah, I am proud of all bits of it, but based on my complexion, obviously a larger portion tends to be out of Europe. Yes.
wow,
Interesting.
isn't that
Interesting.
That's interesting, because do you know that this color you will see in Nigeria from the red Igbos?
Very true.
That's why
Very
in
true.
Jamaica, remember Mulby, when they used to call anybody fair skin Redibo?
Redibo,
boy,
yeah.
Redibo.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
now I know. Yeah, me I wonder why they don't call me Redibo.
Tanya, at one point, people used to tell me I mix with white, and I'm like, how you come with that? They say, well, you have a lot of freckles in your face. And they were right. My great-grandfather is Irish, his son is British and Scottish, you name it. I just accept everybody, white, black, blue,
I love
we're all connected.
That's what's beautiful about all of you, really.
This is another topic, but our own people, and I'm going to say it, need to recognize that we are out of many one people, and we don't have to
Out
have
of
a
many
certain
one.
color to be inclusive. I've heard too many
Absolutely.
people with light colors say that when people say, but you don't look like Jamaican, and she said, what would it take for me to be a Jamaican? No, really, we have to stop it, or we are going to propagate the colonialist disease there about, you know, separating people, because during slavery, they
Absolutely. Yes.
separating us and telling us who was better, the field slave versus the whole slaves, the fair skin color better than dark skin. In Jamaica, we used to say bad skin, bad ear. And to this day, some people are bleaching because of how they feel about their dark skin. We should love everybody's color and recognize we have a common history, and stop trying to dissect and say, well, you know, you're not fully African, you're not. If we do that, we will never have unity, and they would have won.
And we mustn't also hate against the white people, because that's what I see a lot.
We're all humans. Yes.
We're all
humans.
And I told
Absolutely.
somebody recently, most whites did not cause the colonialism and the hurtful, barbaric things that happened. A lot of them are gone. Yes, vestiges of the past are still here, but most people are not like that. However, we have systems in place where we see the white man oligarch. It is a fact, but things are getting better each year, because the more we do this, the more us Caribbean, Black, brown writers all come together. Everybody will come to know us, get our books, in schools, in the library, go out into the community, do festivals so people can say, wow, you know, I always thought this about this set of people, but wow, even though they came out of such a rough history, look at how they were resilient and they came out, they will have more respect. And that's why I travel all around as a folklorist, so I can teach and educate while entertaining at the same time.
Wonderful. So let's conclude this one with out of many one people. It's just beautiful. I love it. Ward, can I ask you, do you have an equivalent of Patois in Barbados or anything like that?
Well, it's not really a patois per se, but we have what we call Bajan. We tend to speak very, very quickly. Well, what you're hearing from me now is way slowed down. But when Bajans speak, we speak so quickly that we chop ends off of words and we merge words together. So, for example, if I would tell you I'm going down on the bay, in Bajan, I would say I'm going down on the bay.
Wow.
Yes, and it
Sounds
sings
like-
songy. I love
Yes.
it. It's different. We kind of just to the point. Me, I go down the beer. You see, his is more sing song.
I love
You
it.
know? Yes.
Yes.
So, Delvon, we are going to move
Right.
on from this topic unless you want to add something when it comes to the language, Patois, and just this Afropean identity. I know we missed you for a moment, like you were gone. So I'm not sure if you've heard everything that we have said.
The only thing I can remember as a child, all I spoke was Patois. And I was living with people who spoke good English, and they used to slap my
Wow.
face out for speaking better. I grew
Wow.
up like that, so yeah.
And better meant to speak English and not Patois.
I to speak proper
That's what it
English
meant
and
to
not
them.
Patois. Yeah. Yeah.
So we've got I. Let's talk about it. I think this is a good time to introduce your book. Why did you decide to write it? And if you can link it to all that we have just discussed. What Delvon just said, being slapped for using Patois as a child, I think this is the time to introduce your book.
Yes, the name of the book is Miss Lou, Voice of the Jamaican People. I want to clue into voice of the Jamaican people. When we say when Miss Lou would do her poems or her monologues, and she did she would make comments about the social, historical things that was happening in Jamaica. And it's a Spanish saying, It could be a statement of frustration or surprise. So depending on what she was talking about, it would either mean shock, not good, or nice surprise. With what Bobby just said about being slapped for speaking Patois, Miss Lou redefined us. That's
Right.
why I call her the poet warrior. She redefined us and said, listen, stop the foolishness. We call our hair bad. Well, language bad. It was looked upon as the uneducated people's language. But as Miss Lou, our mother of Jamaican culture, says, she know of nice people. Her mother, who was a seamstress, her father, who was a baker, yeah, teachers. Everybody spoke Patois because that was what their mothers spoke to them as a form of communication and community. That's what brought them together to make them uniquely Jamaicans. But we had people who were trying, I would call the post-colonialists, who are trying to keep the status quo of the past into the present to make us feel that we are second-rated. But we smutty pitney, that's Patois for we're somebody's child, with our own identity. Miss Lou give us a sense of smuttification. This modification says, no matter where we go, all over the world, people love Jamaicans by the language they speak. And thanks to Miss Lou, she put us on the international map when she was in England at the Royal Dramatic Art, when she was on BBC Radio, when she performing in the US, wherever she was, Royal Albert Hall, all over the world. She was teaching about our rich Jamaican cultural heritage and language, the voice of our ancestors, the voice